Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. Brian Winnekins from the NAFB Convention in Kansas City. And thank you to our NAFB Convention sponsors, including Elsivia Co-op, Osteoplastics, Compeer Financial, Annabis Silo of Duranda, also the Animal Wellness Center of Buffalo Valley, and Synergy Co-op. And joining us today, Roger McEowen. He is a professor of agriculture, law, and taxation with Washburn University School of Law and also Kansas State University. We're going to talk about some ag law issues and also tax issues as well. And Professor McEowen, thanks for joining us. Well, I hate taxes, so does everybody. But is there ever going to be, do you think, some real changes to the tax code? It seems like it's basically just let's move the chairs here on the deck of the Titanic, and we really don't do anything.
Well, the unfortunate thing for farmers and ranchers, as well as everybody else, is when we have a change in administration, that's when they rearrange the chairs on the deck. Every single time we swing back and forth, and it drives us crazy because the rules are constantly changing. How can we plan appropriately long-term in that type of environment? And that bothers farmers, too. If we could just have the rules in place for a lengthy period of time, whether we like them or not, we could deal with it. And I hear that all the time, and that is a problem. But to answer your question directly, no, because Congress likes to run social policy through the tax code, and so they're always going to just mess with it, and it's going to depend on the politics of it, and the politics gets wrapped into it, and that's very unfortunate. And I've said for a number of years that if you're going to write the tax laws, you should have 4 or 5 years of experience in preparing tax returns for other people before you do that, so you can experience what pain you're inflicting on other people first. But that's not going to happen either.
And it is incredibly frustrating because, I mean, frankly, it's getting to the point where even the IRS doesn't know their own rules. And then, and you throw on top of it a farmer has a question, so they call the IRS helpline. The IRS helpline says, do this, they do that, then they find out that was wrong, and there's no accountability. Well, we're sorry, you should have known. Yeah. Seriously? I mean, is it to a point where people have to say, we're just not going to do this anymore and throw us all in jail, or what?
Well, I was asked, you might get a kick out of this, I was asked a few weeks ago of what the most useless item of information I'd ever memorized in my life was. And I thought for a moment, and I said, the IRS helpline. If you can get anybody to answer the phone, this is a problem with IRS. Over the last 15, 20 years, yes, they've been underfunded, but they've been particularly underfunded in the service side of things and in their computer systems. That needs to have a significant upgrade. And the retirement of some really good people in the IRS that understood farm issues, they're gone. They just are not there. And that really needs to be the focus, in my view, of the agency. Let's get our people trained. Years ago, I used to have, for example, we're in Kansas City. I do a seminar every year in Kansas City, a tax seminar. And years ago, I'd have 100 IRS agents show up at that conference. Now I might get 5, and that's just because they don't fund those people anymore, and those people have retired. And so we don't have experienced people in the agency to deal with issues, and then they bring things up that aren't really the issues. They don't understand what ag is. I had a practitioner call me a number of years ago, and he said, Roger, you're not going to believe this, but my ranch client in northwest Kansas was under audit. The IRS agent is going through the depreciation schedules, and he wiped out depreciation for a brush hog. And he said, I'm taking that off the depreciation schedules because you can't depreciate a raised hog. It's that bad. In some of these issues, it's that bad. So, yeah, we got a new bill that has purportedly increased funding for IRS, but when you look at the $80 billion, the bottom 2 in terms of funding are IRS computer systems and service. I would have flip-flopped that. I would have not put the emphasis on the agents and the prosecution side of things and the audit side of things. If you fix the education side of things, the other side fixes itself largely. Yeah, you'll still have the fraudsters out there and the scammers, but you fix the education side of IRS, and they're not bringing what we would call bad audits. They would understand the issues, and they would get those issues fixed, and we would be much better from a practice standpoint if that would be the case.
Talking with Professor Roger McEowen. He's from Kansas State University and the Washburn University School of Law. Well, let's turn to agriculture law. Boy, right now, this deal with California, I think it's Proposition 12. I mean, even just passing it. Now, I'm not an attorney, but geez, when I first saw that they were going to try to pass this, it's like, wait a minute, you can't tell a Wisconsin farmer what to do. You can't. You're in California. That's Commerce Clause. And I mean, it's surprising. Are you surprised that this is going to the U.S. Supreme Court? To me, it seems so cut and dry. What did I miss?
Well, it came through the Ninth Circuit, so that's part of the explanation. But it is on a motion to dismiss at the Supreme Court level. So whatever they decide is not going to be on the merits. Whatever the Supreme Court decides will not end it. I think what they will do, based on what I heard at oral arguments, is that they will say that the producers have raised enough issues that there is something for the Ninth Circuit and the trial court back in California to hear, and it'll work its way up through the system again. It is a dormant Commerce Clause issue, and the justices seem to be very concerned about retaliation by other states back against California, which is a state would do that. And the question is, where does this end if we allow states to do this? One of the justices basically said that in the oral argument, asking the California attorneys, where's the end game to this? What's a solution to this? And so I think the court is struggling to find a solution and to frame it such that the lower courts have something to work with and give them a path in terms of what the evidence needs to be and what the arguments are at the lower court level. I think they'll kick it back. I think it goes back to the lower courts, and it'll probably work its way back through the U.S. to the U.S. Supreme Court in a couple of years. So it's going to be around for a while, but this is a big issue that's of concern, not just to pork producers, but if a state can do this, you can regulate activities in other states on all types of agricultural practices. That's the fear, and I heard that from the justices, and they are really struggling with this right now.
Hey, if California can do it, Wisconsin can do it too. Cheese has to be done a certain way, and that's just too bad. Don't like it? Sorry. And that's the problem with this. Meanwhile, another issue that the court's going to be looking at as well, this right to repair. And this is this is another one of these that's difficult because from an average Joe standpoint like myself, I would be like, wait a minute, I bought this tractor or this vehicle, I want to fix it. No, why do I have to take it to you? And I should be able to have the way to do this. But on the other side, the manufacturers, of course, they're saying, hey, this is proprietary stuff, and we can't just give it away. Or if you break it, then we're the ones on the hook. So this is kind of a difficult issue.
Yeah, there are two sides. I think there's two issues. One is the intellectual property side, the legal issue, and the other is the practical side of this. If I have a machine that breaks down in my farm field, I've got the logistical problem of getting their technician out there on their schedule, not mine, and I may have a 500-acre field that needs to be harvested right now. Maybe there's bad weather that's coming in. I need to take care of that, and maybe I could do that myself, but if they're saying, no, you can't touch our technology, then with supply chain issues, with their issues concerning their tech people, the location of the farm itself, that is the practical problem that farmers face on this, let alone the intellectual property legal issue that's in this. So it's wrapped into a whole bunch of stuff, and it's a messy issue. And I see that being a big issue as we go into 2023.
Going to be a lot of things we have to watch. That is Professor Roger McEowen with the Agriculture Law and Taxation at Washburn University School of Law and Kansas State University as well. From NAFB Convention, I'm Brian Winnikins for WRDN.